If a buyer asks you what other offers are on the table, do not reveal the offers.
I mean, the number of times you hear, let me speak to the missus and I'll get back to you.
They're testing your knowledge. They're testing your credibility.
If we don't sell this house, we don't get paid. And that actually puts people off. It instantly can kill a deal.
A big mistake that an agent can make in that process is... Welcome to Real Estate Talk Pod, where we bring you real conversations about the luxury real estate market.
And we're your hosts, James and Vicky, and today we're diving into one of the most powerful tools in an agent's arsenal, understanding the psychology of high-end buyers.
Yes, they're not just your average clients. They're smart, decisive, and they like being in control. So if you really want to understand how they work and how to build their trust, you have to think on their level.
Certainly, in this episode, we're going to truly dive into what drives a high-end buyer, the emotions that play into buying multi-million-pound homes, and how to present a lifestyle and not just a home.
We also reveal some subtle mistakes that can tank a deal and how to avoid them. So, going into the first topic today, James, we really need to understand how to get inside the luxury real estate buyer's mindset. From your perspective, how do high net worth individuals think? How do they make decisions differently from the regular buyer?
Certainly. There's so much that goes into this. A lot of regular home buyers think with emotion. You know, oh, I like the kitchen, or I like the garden, or no, this is the kind of front of the house that I've been envisioning in their mind. From a high-end buyer point of view, it's all logical thinking. Yeah. It's all thinking about the functionality of the house. Does the house have a utility room? Do I have an office? Do I have a pool? Do I have a garden for the family? Do I need an extra bedroom when my parents come over?
Yeah, the downstairs room.
Exactly. The downstairs room whereby, you know, they might not be able to go up the stairs anymore. So they want that convenience. Does it have a downstairs bathroom? Yeah. But also with logical thinking, they're thinking about the next generation.
Yes.
So the legacy, the heritage, you know, passing this on in terms of inheritance to the family, passing on to the grandkids, that kind of thing. Those things play a massive decision, decision-making process for a high-end buyer. And that's something you need to factor in when you're dealing with those kind of clients.
100%. And touching on legacy, they want to make sure that their legacy are going to some of the best schools in the area. So I think location is also very important to them, isn't it?
Very, very true, yes. Ensuring that they're in the right school catchment areas as well. So also the other thing that comes with that, with having all that lifestyle and so forth, is making sure that the property is continuously growing as well. Yeah. So in terms of capital growth further down the line, and you know, you never know how a property might turn out. Maybe further down the line, the family might want to sell it, so they want to make sure they're making a good profit as well. Yeah. And I guess the other thing that comes with that is also something that I'd like to ask you in terms of what are the subtle things in which a high-end buyer kind of uses to test you as an agent and to kind of see where you're at in terms of knowledge and credibility?
Yeah, I think for them, as an agent, you're not just representing your client, you're representing the property, all of the features, the unique selling points. You're representing the location. How versed are you on the local area? The local schools, the best places to go for leisurely, activities, whether it's the local golf club, cricket club, equestrian, local amenities from restaurants to bars. They want to make sure that you understand what they're investing their money into. So it's so important that you're knowledgeable. They're testing your knowledge. They're testing your credibility. So for me, it's 100. I study a property or the local area, like, you know, I'm studying for my GCSEs all over again. Yeah. Like you really need to be versed on, you know, understanding the value behind a property, because they're trusting you with their, you know, their money, their investment, you know, their future. So that's one thing I think for me, they're definitely testing you on. But also that buyer could end up being a vendor. They could end up being someone that passes you business.
100%.
Or recommends you to somebody
100%.
else. So they're also testing you on how good you are as an agent. You know, that if you can showcase a home beautifully to them, then that gives them the confidence that if they were to give you a property to look after, you would do the exact same thing.
Definitely.
So yes.
And it's a continuous circle because that will
Mm.
generate more business referrals
Yeah.
and so forth as well. So another aspect is selling a lifestyle, right? And not just selling a home. So when you're presenting a home,
Mm.
what are the things that you focus on in terms of shifting the focus from features to actually feelings?
Feelings. I think I'm just going to speak candidly as a woman.
Yes, of course. No,
Because I
bring
feel
it.
like ultimately we are the ones that really make a
Yeah,
decision on what,
125%.
whether or not a
No,
property is purchased in the end. If you, as a gentleman, you have a wife
indeed.
and you're searching for properties, you might or you may not agree that we are very much involved in the final decision on whether or not, we go for that home.
I mean, the number of times you hear, let me speak to the missus and I'll get back to you. Certainly.
Exactly. Yeah, I just had that text message come through to me yesterday from a buyer. So it's so important that you're not just capturing, the logical side of a buyer's thinking.
Yes.
The location, the features,
Definitely.
The USPs of the property, but they actually have to envision themselves living there.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm taking buyers through a property, and even before I take a buyer through a property, I really try to understand what they're looking for, understand them as a person, understand, how many children do they have, what's important to them culturally on a day-to-day basis, what are they actually looking for?
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to walk them through a property and explain to them the benefits of each room for their family.
Definitely.
And, even during the viewing itself, I'm asking them, how do you see yourself using this space? And if they've told me about how much they love cooking or, certain activities that they love doing, they need an office space because they're an artist and they like painting.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be able to walk them through different rooms and remind them of what they need and how each of those rooms will, support them in their future, their vision for how they want to live their life.
Certainly.
So for me, the kitchen is always the heart of my home. And I like to grab people's hearts in the kitchen.
Indeed.
That's the main entertaining space. So it's kind of reminding them of how they would use the space to entertain their guests, to, have lovely, beautiful family dinners. It's about making sure they understand how they can create memories in that space.
Definitely. Yeah. And creating those memories are emotional attachments.
Yeah.
So when they can see emotional attachments to a property, it's so much more in terms of them appreciating that property and wanting to go for it.
Yeah.
Then there's the fear of loss. There's the fear of, we need to have this. This is perfect for our home.
Right.
Because they're already seeing themselves in it. So those things are quite key.
So it's really about the lifestyle, isn't it?
Yes.
So for you, can you think of a moment where, I guess, a lifestyle presentation, really helped you secure a deal?
No, certainly. There's plenty of those. And I think one example I'll give is a lifestyle for a buyer, which they were moving from a 6-bedroom detached home, which they've had as their family home. Right. They've had their kids in those home in that house. Their kids have had grandkids in that house and so forth as well. But now they're a lot older. They're in their 70s and 80s. And they wanted a space whereby it could cater to all their needs, but also not change their lifestyle. So in terms of, they wanted a place whereby they a lot smaller. They moved into a 3-bedroom apartment. They wanted a place where they had 24/7 concierge. So anything they needed, there was people on hands to help them with that. And also, this was a property in Hampstead, so they could then go to Hampstead Village, which was very close by. So they still had that kind of interaction to a very active community, but then they still had the peace and tranquility of being by Hampstead Heath. So those things are quite important to actually ensure that it fitted their changing lifestyle, right? But creating an environment where they'll be comfortable and they could actually, enjoy the rest of their retirement days.
That's so important.
Yeah,
I get where you're coming from, because it's all that's really what helps build trust.
Yeah,
that they understand that they know that you understand what they need. So I guess, what would you say your go-to strategy is for making a buyer feel understood from the very beginning?
Yeah, I think making a buyer feel understood is all about actually ensuring that, even though I am the agent for this property, it's a partnership, because my job is to ensure that we form a partnership between the buyer and the seller. And effectively, even though I do work for the seller, I'm also working with the buyer to reach an agreement, because the way in which we work and our structure is an entrepreneurial structure, in terms of if we don't sell this house, we don't get paid.
Yeah.
So we've actually invested in the whole process and we got skin in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's so important, because a lot of buyers come from the culture that an agent is just an agent and they just want to sell the house for the maximum price.
100%.
But effectively, my job is to educate the buyer that this is a partnership, and also educate them on the value of the property and trying to find a nice middle ground where it works for a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, no, totally understand. For me, that is so important, because you don't want a buyer to feel like you're just selling them a property for the sake of selling them a property.
No, 100%. 100%. No, for sure. And that's what we come into, and that's why we create value, because of what we do. We need to make sure everybody understands the psychology of not just a high-end buyer, and as well as the seller, but bringing that partnership all together.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think a big mistake that an agent can make in that process is, firstly, taking a buyer to a property that they don't want one. They're not interested in it.
Oh my goodness.
You haven't questioned them on, what their deal breakers are. You haven't questioned them on what, the key, things they're looking for are. You haven't really got to understand them individually, and you're showing them a property that has like 10 deal breakers. You're wasting their time. You're wasting the vendor's time as well. So that's really important, I think.
Yes.
And secondly, and this just comes down to like confidentiality.
Yes.
I think if a buyer asks, and I think this is where a lot of buyers test you, and you don't know they're testing you when they're doing it. If a buyer asks you what other offers are on the table, do not reveal the offers, because as soon as you reveal somebody else's offer, they're going to naturally assume that you're revealing their offer to other buyers.
Indeed.
And high net worth buyers do not respect that at all, in my opinion.
Certainly.
You can always give them an indication of what kind of offer they need to make in order to secure the property. They will respect your transparency in terms of what the vendor's looking for. But revealing other buyers' offers, I think, is a big mistake. And that's just my personal way of working.
No, I totally agree with you. That is a absolutely huge, important point you've just made there, because you're not only breaking confidentiality, but also credibility as well.
Yes.
So they're like, well, she's going to be doing that with every single buyer, so why should I trust her? And that actually puts people off. It instantly can kill a deal. Yeah. So that's a very important point you just brought there. And that's something that, you have to be aware of, and ensure that as a high-end luxury real estate agent, you're keeping that confidentiality, and you're building relationships, and you're there to deliver results with credibility.
100%.
As well.
And it all comes down to professionalism. So selling luxury homes isn't just about, listing them, selling them. You really have to get into the minds of the buyer.
Yes, certainly. Certainly. No, so it is all about that, and it's not about selling hard. It's more about selling with quality, with value, with professionalism, like you said, and ensuring that there is a fine line in building trust, and also ensuring that you respect people in their approach as well, and making them feel valued. Yeah,
100%. So I hope that's given you guys some ideas on, what you can and what you shouldn't do, what mistakes you should avoid from, selling luxury homes. We're going to delve into that more on the seller's side in our next episode. So what mistakes to avoid when selling luxury homes. So we have been your hosts of the Real Estate Talk podcast today. My name is Vicky.
My name is James. Thank you so much for watching. Please rate us, review us. We're very new to podcasting and telling our story. So if there's anything you'd like us to talk about, don't hesitate, and subscribe to our channel as well. Thank you so much for your time.